So what's going on, guys? My name is Mr. Dalek JD, and today it's time to start gearing up that hype train for DLC 4 Revelations. We're going to be talking lore and story and theories and everything else in between, as up until this very moment in time, the actual details of DLC 4 is pretty scarce. DLC 3 isn't even out yet on all platforms, and we're already chomping at the bit for new information, and that in mind is a very good thing. I've mentioned in several videos before about certain backstories in Black Ops 3 Zombies, but in this video we're going to drop them all into a big bubbling pot, stir them all together, and produce a rather tasty broth of the backstory to Revelations. Or so we think it's going to play out anyway. Treyarch could definitely drop bombshells here and switch your expectations up entirely, but this is the accurate lore and backstory as to how we've ended up where we are now. Now before I start, please, if you feel so inclined, gently give that like button a press. Hopefully by the end of the video, you feel that like was worthy of your click. Now in order for us to understand this, we need to go far back in time. We're talking hundreds of years ago to the Great War and the Great Battle. Two very different things that we're going to be diving right into, but this all involves the Great Battle against the Apothicons. Now you may be familiar with that word Apothicons. We have an entire language based upon the Apothicons, but they aren't the great evil that we're fighting today in Black Ops 3. In the beginning, there were just keepers, such as those seen in Shadows of Evil, Dark Eisendrache, and Zetsubo no Shima, but according to the Chronorium, these keepers became corrupt by the Dark Ether, which eventually turned them into Apothicons, and the exact X script says in the beginning there were only the keeper, but then corruption of the Dark Ether leached its way into the realm and twisted the minds of some of the keepers. These keepers turned to shadows of their former selves and eventually became the Apothicons. Now looking in our current time in Black Ops 3 Zombies, the only time we've seen real Apothicons is when we've seen the keepers from the rituals trying to attack us, as well as the corrupted keeper in Dark Eisendrache, which is the huge boss at the end. But aside from that, the keeper's job is to protect the world and protect and guard against the perpetual attempts of the Apothicons to re-enter creation, and this is all a cause from the Great War. Now the Great War is where the Keepers and the Apothicons fought. The Keepers won this war and banished all the surviving Apothicons in the Dark Ether forever. It is only during their exit in the Dark Ether they became the creatures that we see in Shadows of Evil, and after the victory of the Great War, the Keepers became the wards of the creation and its protectors. The evidence we can look through to say that they became the creatures we see in Shadows of Evil is another excerpt from the Chronorium, which says after Ions of Exile in the Dark Ether, the Apothicons evolved into twisted creatures that now bear little resemblance to their Keeper brethren. An example of this is the Shadow Man as well as the Margwas. So are you with me so far? I'm not Dr. Monty, by the way, but so far we have the Keepers. They were the only things that were there, and then there was the Dark Ether, which leached into the realm and corrupted some of the Keepers, which turned them into shadows of their former selves as the Apothicons. Then the Keepers and the Apothicons fought in the Great War. The Keepers won and banished all the surviving Apothicons into the Dark Ether forever. Now skip forward hundreds if not thousands of years later, and the Apothicons found a way to re-enter creation. At some point they attacked the Earth during the Middle Ages, and the humans fought against the Apothicons and the zombies in the Great Battle with the help of the Keepers and a group of 4 knights that we called Primis. Notably, 2 of the humans that were fought in the battle against the Apothicons were Pablo Marinus, who was a Crusader knight, and an unnamed king. We can assume that this took place during the Middle Ages because Pablo Marinus says that he is a knight coming back from the Crusades, which was around that time period. He fought in a great battle against strange demon-like creatures who were trying to devour the earth, those are the Apothicons. At one point it appears he's doomed, trapped in the tentacles of a great 3-headed beast, when suddenly 4 knights decimate it with magical elemental staves, saving him from certain death. There are otherworldly creatures that fought on their side against the demons, those of course being the Keepers. The great battle concluded with the Apothicons being defeated and Primis using their magical elemental staves to cleanse the world. We of course know most of this from the cipher from Gorod Krovi, as well as the Primis image you can see of our 4 Primis characters cleansing the world, and there's a cipher which reads, "After the great battle they stood upon the mound, their light shone down and cleansed all the sickness for as far as the eye could see. They are the first they are the last. Visions of fractured worlds and strange rooms haunted our dreams. We don't just have Pablo Marinus as a Crusader knight, but we have the unnamed king, which is pretty much the Der Eisendrache king, because Primus told the king to build his castle in a specific location. He says that those four were the bravest warriors he had ever seen, and had the privilege to fight alongside them in the great battle many years ago, where they defeated the creatures from beyond and the Dead Eaters. And we can pretty much almost confirm that the unnamed king in the battle is the Der Eisendrache king. There's a lot of evidence to lead up to it, but if that is the case, then the location of the great battle is going to be in Austria, as that's where the Der Eisendrache castle was built. Skip forward centuries later, and Edward Richtofen discovered the journal of Pablo Marinus in northern France between 1917 and 1918 during World War I, when Group 935 began a site excavation. And now that brings us to more current times. Of course, in Origins we open the gateway to Agartha, Maxis opened the portal between the worlds, and that's when the world within the world got turned upside down and inside out. After collecting the original souls of our characters, we sent Dempsey, Nikolai and Takio up towards the ether. Richtofen 1.0 soul was not part of that group, and I'll have a separate video coming out shortly on my ideas and thoughts as to that, but now it leads us to Revelations. So what can we expect knowing all of this lore and backstory in Revelations? As you guys have seen from a separate video I released a little while ago, we will see the original versions of the staves, which will be stronger, much more powerful, and probably have new features and elements altogether. By the sounds of the backstory, part of the map itself will involve all of us going back to the original fight of the great battle and fighting as the original Primus characters with the original staves, of course saving our good old character Pablo Marinus and the king, and getting rid of the Apothicans forever. There's been evidence of this even taking place during the Shadows of Evil Pack-a-Punch mural. You can see our four characters as the knights with the original staves, and that is during the great battle. The Primus image is what takes place after that great battle. So we've seen images of what these two situations can look like. We're definitely, hopefully, going to be actually playing in those situations. All of the events that happened hundreds if not thousands of years ago from now is going to all unfold before our very eyes in Revelations. Two questions we don't know at this point in time is how exactly the Primus 4 actually came to be, but of course, as Jason Blundell likes to tie loose ends, I definitely feel we'll have that tied for us, and also what exactly the Dark Ether is and how that came to exist as well, because it's just seemed to have appeared out of nowhere in the story a long time ago, and there was no explanation into how the Dark Ether existed. There's also the blood vials that all our characters now possess, including the Mob of the Dead ones, which we still have no idea what they do, and each character possessing two sets of their own blood vials. What is that going to be for? We aren't quite sure. But if this got you hyped and excited for Revelations, let me know down below in the comment section. Drop all your theories and suggestions on what is going to take place in this map, where exactly it's going to be set, what we're going to be doing. Primus is definitely going to be heavily involved, the great battle. Hopefully we'll be actually fighting in that, which would just be the most epic thing. Like, just imagining it right now is getting me excited. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll catch you on another one very soon.